Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Happy Friday, and welcome back to the Event Crushed podcast. This is your host, Becky, and I am here today with a solo episode. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to be able to put out an episode this week because we've been dealing with a lot of sickness in our household, and we've had some crazy stuff happen. Like my daughter ended up in the ER on Sunday after a bad bike accident, and she's fine. Thankfully, she's getting her stitches out tomorrow, but just some things this week that kind of threw me for a loop. And so I was thinking maybe I wasn't going to be able to put out an episode this week, but I really didn't want to leave you guys hanging. And I have been able to get an episode out every Friday since I launched the podcast in May. And so I just really wanted to make it happen. So we're doing it. Like I said, I have a solo episode today, and I'm going to be chatting about some life hacks that I personally use in my own life for productivity that I just wanted to share with you. So we're just going to jump in and get started. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit funny. I'm still dealing with some kind of congestion and all of that fun stuff. So that is why my voice is the way it is at the moment. But if you've been listening to my podcast for a little while now, you know that I like to talk a lot about entrepreneurship and owning a business in the wedding industry and different ways to market and level up our businesses and all of that good stuff. And this week's episode is a little bit different. It still, of course, pertains to business, but it's a little more on the side of lifestyle and things that we can do in our own lives to set ourselves up for success in our businesses. So these aren't necessarily, tips on social media or things like that. It's more of what we can be doing in our own everyday lives to help us be more productive in our businesses. So my goal for my podcast listeners and for my mentorship clients is not just that they have a successful, fulfilling, profitable business, but that they would have a balanced and joy-filled life as well. So on this podcast, sometimes I'm going to talk about topics that are a little more lifestyle focused, but of course, it's still going to tie directly into being a wedding business owner. So I have 5 things that I'm going to share with you today, and I'm calling these my life hacks. We could also call them productivity hacks, what have you. But the first one is, we're going to start by just ripping off the Band-Aid. We're going to start with the tough one that you might not like. And I know that because I mention this to people quite often when they're like, Becky, how do you do it all? How do you run your business and homeschool your kids and be a good mom and wife? The main thing, well, of course, I start by saying I don't do it all. Like in my episode with McKenna of Life and Letters, we touched on this a bit about how, it might seem on the outside like we have it all together and we're doing it all. But in reality, there's certain things that are falling apart behind the scenes, like the dishes or the laundry. So that's usually what I say first. But then secondly, I tell them one of the ways that I'm able to, air quotes, do it all is by waking up really early in the morning. And that allows me to have a time to work before my kids are awake in silence and be able to completely focus. And I'm the most productive during that time. And so I choose to wake up usually between 4 to 5 in the morning. My goal is I would say on average about 4:30, and this is weekdays only. So I do sleep in a bit more on the weekends. But when I tell you that waking up at 4:30 in the morning has changed my life, I mean it. I honestly had been trying to wake up this early for years. My husband, Andrew, had been waking up at 3:30 a.m. for many, many years, as he used to be a route driver for Cintas, and he started work at about 5. And so he liked to get up and have his coffee and kind of chill out a little bit before having to jump into work. So because of that job that he had for many years, that wake up time was basically ingrained in him. And so even when he quit his job at Cintas to take his bookkeeping job full time, he still would wake up early every day. And it was just like his internal clock, And so I watched him wake up at this very early time and be productive in the mornings and do his work for his business. And I just always admired it. I thought it was really awesome, but it also just felt crazy to me because I've always been more of a night owl, whereas Andrew has always been pretty early to bed. He's never really been much of a night owl, whereas in the past, I was definitely more of a night owl. And so it felt really hard to, wake up at this very early hour. And so I had tried it on and off. I would do it for like a week or two, and then I would give up, and it never stuck. And then when we started homeschooling our girls a few years ago, I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't have a choice because now we have this homeschool routine every weekday that is really important to me. And that's a really big priority. And I don't want my work time to be affected basically, or affect it in a negative way. And so it was either I don't do any work until the afternoon, which I didn't love that because there's certain things that are just more time sensitive and I would want to get them done in the morning versus pushing it till the afternoon. And also knowing that like these things are going to be in the back of my mind while I'm doing school with my kids. I didn't love that. I would way, way rather wake up early and get all this stuff checked off my to-do list and start my day feeling super productive. And so anyways, I was kind of forced into that position with our transition into homeschool. And honestly, now it's so second nature for me. I mean, I'll say I've been sick lately, so I have not been waking up early for the last couple of weeks. And then we were camping before that. So as of my current status, I'm not doing it. But up until that point, and then I will, resume it here very quickly. But I love waking up at that hour. It gives me a solid 3 hours in the morning that I can work. I can do emails. I can work on invoices and proposals and client work and all my priorities that I need to get done for the day. I can get done in that first 3 hours of my day. And honestly, if I don't go back to work after that, it's usually fine. I will say more so in the off season right now and like the heat of wedding season, I usually am coming back and doing more work. Well, right now is just different because we're not doing school either. So I can extend it. I don't need to stop at 7 anymore to go get breakfast. For the kids, I can just keep working. So we're a lot more flexible right now. But during the school year, it is a game changer. So I'm really happy that I was able to finally make that switch in my brain to be able to wake up that early. And so if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. I could never wake up that early. That's so unrealistic. I will say like the key, I think, to being able to wake up early is simply going to bed earlier. If you're struggling to wake up early, it's probably because you're not getting enough sleep. And so you need to train yourself basically to go to bed earlier. So for example, if you go to bed at 9 p.m., which yes, to some people, that's very early. But if you go to bed at 9 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m., that's a solid 8 hours of sleep. People are like, I wish there could be more hours in the day. Well, I feel like waking up early in the morning gives you more hours in the day because what are you doing at 9 o'clock at night? You're binge watching Netflix. Like you're not doing anything productive. So for me, it was like flip-flopping some hours of my day. So I'm taking away these hours from the evening where I literally would have been in bed, binge watching a show or a movie or something. To me, that's like not that important. It's not an essential part of my life. It's not really doing anything for me other than like maybe I'm getting a little bit of, me time or whatever after putting the kids to bed. But then instead I'm giving myself this time in the morning where I actually am doing work and I'm being productive. So I just can't stress that enough. Like if you want more hours in your day, then you need to wake up earlier. And if you're finding that like you just can't get everything done in a work day that you need to be getting done, I really suggest just trying to go to bed earlier, setting in multiple alarms. I still sometimes have to set multiple alarms and I'll get up on like the second or third one. And there's no shame in that. getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night is very, very important. So if you're not getting enough sleep, I mean, you should probably work on that first, just making sure you're getting enough sleep. But as long as you're getting that 7 to 8 hours, you can figure out a way to wake up early. I also have a hack for coffee drinkers. If you are a coffee drinker like me, you can, if you have a coffee maker that has the option to set it the night before to automatically start brewing at a certain time, you can like set it for 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or what have you, and it will just go automatically. And so when your alarm goes off, you'll know, oh, the coffee is like being made right now. I need to get up and drink it. You'll smell it. You'll not want to waste like perfectly good coffee. So I think that's a really good kind of addition to your alarm clock, is having your coffee maker just automatically making your coffee and knowing that it's just going to happen, and you don't want to waste that coffee. So you better get up and drink it. So I really think that waking up early is a key to being a more productive person. You don't even have to work necessarily during that time. You can work out during that time. You can, spend time in the Word. That's something that I also love to do in the morning. So there's a lot of different ways you can be productive, and it doesn't mean that you need to jump into work right away. Not everyone's brains, can like fully function at 5 a.m. And it kind of took me a while to like get into that. But now that I'm just used to it, especially since I work from home, especially since I'm just walking upstairs to my office with my cup of coffee, it's not that hard for me to like get into a productive headspace at that time. So I just would say, if you've ever wanted to try, if you've ever wanted to become a morning person, it's definitely possible. I was not always a morning person. If you've known me for a long time, you know that I used to have a really hard time waking up early in the morning. And now I love getting up early on weekdays and being productive. So you are in control. And if you want to become a morning person, you can become a morning person. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I would say start by just going to bed earlier, getting enough sleep, setting a couple alarms, getting your coffee ready to go, and see what happens. It takes consistency. You can't just try it for a night or a week, and if it doesn't work out, go, okay, never mind. I guess I just can't do it. You have to keep putting in the effort and the time. And if you want it bad enough, like, you will make it happen. Okay, moving on to number 2 on my list of life hacks. This next one is something I discovered recently in the last few months, and it's something that I am really enjoying and that I think has been really helpful for me, because if you have kids or a family or just a busy life and you're running your business, meal planning can be really difficult, and maybe you've struggled with this too. Personally, for me, this is something that I just really struggle with during wedding season. And so somewhere along the lines, I think it was just when I was researching online, I came across this app called eMeals, and it's a meal planning app, but it also connects to different like online grocery subscriptions and apps. So for example, we have Walmart Plus because we got way too used to grocery pickup and delivery during the pandemic. And now we just love it and we just rely on it in our daily lives. And so that's why we use it, to order groceries or household items that they can be delivered to us the same day. And it's so convenient. So this is kind of a 2-for-1, because I would also highly recommend doing a service like that if you are not already, to save time on grocery shopping. And even like it helps with, if you're trying to eat better, if you can avoid going in the store and walking down the aisles of all the like snacks and cookies, if you're only just ordering groceries from the app or the website, you can avoid having all of those urges to buy things that you probably shouldn't be buying. So anyways, that's just a quick aside. But the eMeals app, it has all of these recipes built into it. And so when you find a recipe you like, you just click like add to list, and it'll take all the ingredients for that recipe and add it to your grocery list. And then it will connect it to your Walmart Plus or whatever grocery app you use, and it will add all of those items into your shopping cart, basically. So it just really streamlines the meal planning and grocery shopping process, which is amazing. And I'm just enjoying it so much. There is a yearly fee for it, but it's very affordable. It's way more affordable than like if you were to do an actual meal kit service like HelloFresh or Blue Apron, which I do have experience with both of those companies as well. And I loved them. Like I thought it was great. It just is a little more expensive than what we're wanting to do right now. If we had a little more wiggle room in the budget, I probably would still do something like that. But for right now, eMeals works really great. And I definitely recommend checking it out. They have so many great recipes. There's all different meal plans that you can be on. So right now we're on one called, I think it's like quick and healthy meals. But there's keto, there's Mediterranean, there's kid friendly, like there's all different meal plans that you can choose from. And then if you still want to look in other plans, like you can find other meals too. It doesn't have to only be within what you've selected, but I think it just helps to categorize them. So I've really been loving eMeals, and I'll make sure to link it in the show notes because I hadn't heard of it up until a few months ago. And I'm so glad that I found it because it's just helping me have a little bit of sanity during this wedding season. Okay, number 3. I've definitely talked about Asana on the podcast before. I think in the episode that I shared all of the different tools that I use in my wedding business, I definitely mentioned Asana in that. So I use Asana not just for my business tasks and project management, but I also use it for my personal life and just all of the household to-dos that I need to get done. So in Asana, you can have different projects. And so I have various projects for my personal life as well. And I don't know about you, but I'll be out like running errands or cooking dinner, and then a random thing will just pop in my mind, or I'll get a text from somebody or an email for something, personal. And I just need to like add a task so that I don't forget to either get back to that person or to schedule something or any number of things. But Asana has made it really easy to just keep track of everything I need to get done. I can use the app on my phone and I can just quickly go in there and add a to-do to my list. And then I won't forget about it, because there's definitely been times in the past where I have either, I've like needed to write something down, but I didn't have a notepad. And so I just like didn't do it. Or it would pop out of my head and I would forget. And now with Asana, I rarely ever like miss things anymore because I'm always putting these to-dos or taking notes in the app. And it has helped so much to make sure that I am covered in all areas of my life. And I highly recommend, I just have the free version. And so I would start with that. I think the free version is pretty sufficient depending on what you're using it for. They also have a Google Chrome plugin that you can add, and I really enjoy that as well. Or it's a browser extension. So I highly recommend getting that as well. I have the browser tab open on my browser at all times, just so I can constantly keep tabs on my to-dos and see where I'm at and see what I have upcoming. And I just really love being able to kind of have my eyes on it at all times. And again, I have it on my phone as well. And so everything syncs up, and it's just a really nice way to keep track of everything and make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, the next one I think will be pretty quick. We're on number 4 here, and this is to keep a tidy workspace. I'm really talking to myself here because I have a bad habit of letting my office get in pretty rough shape before I finally dive in and get it all cleaned up. And I just know that once my office is clean, I feel like I'm so much more productive. I don't know if you're the same way, but I just feel like so much more peaceful and at ease when I have a clean and tidy workspace. And so I'm just really trying to get better at keeping my office in better shape at all times, and especially keeping the clutter off of my desk. I think that's the biggest thing for me is just keeping my desk clear of clutter. Like right now, I've got this pile of papers to my right that I just need to sort through, and probably a lot of it's garbage or recycle and or just needs to be put away, but it's things that I haven't had time to address. And so I just need to sit down and go through all of that and clear off this corner of my desk, and then I will be feeling much better. And so I would just encourage you to take some time every day or every week to just like clear off your desk. If you can just add that in to your weekly, tasks to clear off your desk, I think that's what I'm going to do right after I finish recording this episode, because I could just really easily add that in Asana as a repeating weekly task to clean off my desk. I think that would be so helpful. So that's my encouragement, is just to keep a tidy workspace. It's easier said than done, for sure. And I don't know, I always thought I was like a relatively clean person, but I've realized in my later years of life, especially, like I'm really not that tidy of a person. My husband would agree, I'm sure. I want to be, like I aspire to be a tidy person, but man, my house is proof that I'm not really. And my car, and but that's okay. We're always improving and evolving, and I can become a tidy person someday. Okay, so the final productivity hack that I have for you is to outsource what you can. And I know we've talked about outsourcing a little bit on the podcast. I had my VA, Darcy, on, and we talked a lot about it. But outsourcing can look so different from person to person. Sometimes it makes sense to outsource things in your business by hiring a virtual assistant or a social media manager or a bookkeeper, or even an associate in your own business, like an associate coordinator or associate photographer. Again, all of these things we've touched on in previous episodes, but sometimes it might make sense to outsource things in your personal life. So things like house cleaning, or, a nanny to watch the kids for a bit, or landscaping for your garden or your yard, or someone to help with meals, or even like we had mentioned before with, an app that can help with meal planning. There is no shame whatsoever in outsourcing these things. And I will say personally, I'm very much looking forward to a time in the future. I don't know exactly when, but it's a goal that I have to be able to have a regular house cleaning service that comes either every week or every other week. I think this would honestly make me a better mom, a better wife, and a better business owner, honestly, if we had this service. So it's definitely something that I have on my mind and that I look forward to in the future. And just because you could use help or you need help with a certain area of your life doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're lazy. So anyways, I think that there are a lot of things that you could potentially outsource that could help you to just have more time in your business or have more time with your family, whatever your priority is. It's impossible to do it all ourselves. And so whether it's asking for help, like asking your partner if they can just pitch in and help a little more. Like for me with Andrew, I've asked him if he can help with, the dinners a couple of nights a week. So we're kind of splitting it up now. So I'm doing the meal planning and I'm basically assigning meals to different nights. And then I do 2 to 3, or he does 2 to 3 every week. And so that way we're kind of tag teaming it, and it's just helping me to, just share that load and to not feel like I have to be in charge of every single meal. So that's another way you can outsource, is you can just ask your partner if they can help in a certain way, whether it's laundry or dishes or just tidying around the house. Our kids can be a huge help. If you have especially older kids, mine are 8 and 11 now. So they're getting big and they're very capable of helping out with things. So they're doing their own laundry and they're picking up after themselves, and they have their, daily chores that they're doing. And sometimes it's just a matter of like outsourcing to our own family and asking them to just help us to manage it all, because it's way too much for one person and there is no shame in asking for help. So again, those are just my thoughts on that. I would just say find what works for your family. I know it's definitely not possible for everyone to be able to outsource these things in terms of like hiring a house cleaner or a nanny or things like that. So if you do aspire for those things someday, start by setting goals. Think about how much extra money would you need to make each month to be able to outsource your desired task. Maybe look around online and see like what the going rate is for a house cleaner in your area if they were to come for an hour every week. Just see what that cost could look like. And then you'll know how much you need to save per month. And, how many extra clients is that? Is that just getting one extra client a month? What would that realistically look like for you to be able to attain that? And so speaking of goals too, I'm planning on a future episode that will be all about goal setting. And I'm going to share about the annual goal setting retreat that me and my husband go on each year in late December or early January. This is something that we do every year. We go away, just the two of us, and we dream and we plan for our future and we set goals, and it's really, really wonderful. So I will share more about that in a future episode. But those were my 5 life hacks for you this week. And I'd love to know what you thought about this episode. And if you have any productivity hacks that you'd like to share, I would love to hear from you. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a beautiful weekend. We'll see you back here next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.